Welcome back to Gaming with Greg. This is Endless Space Disharmony, Episode 2. Just take a moment and appreciate how beautiful our lovely homeworld looks. We are continuing our game with the Vaulters, and last time we were at war with the Pilgrims in one arm of our four-arm spiral galaxy. You can see just started up, turn 21, and this time I remembered to turn the music back on. For some reason, whenever I start a new game, it always defaults with the music turned off or down, and I constantly have to adjust it, so I'll try to be more aware of that in the future. But here we go. So turn 21, we had just had a battle with this ship on turn 20. It has decided to attack us again this turn, and then we have some other events. The Pilgrims still have not colonized this star system over here, which is a little surprising to me. We are busily working away at building up our fleet in Xanados, and we have 2 of the 5 ships that I queued up already completed. And we are currently working on a clan ship to colonize Gemini. Gemini had some good territory, particularly a couple of good-sized Arctic planets. Well, we can just go ahead and take a look at them. But this particularly plus 20 approval will offset the penalties that you normally associate with colonizing Arctic planets. Arctic planets have a minus 10 approval penalty. They're not the greatest places in the universe to make your home. Or most comfortable places, we'll say. So that's what our plan is at the moment. Ying is still trying to get up and running, and it'll take some time for that to happen. Let's see what our other events are. Okay. Galactic events. So these are just random events that occasionally happen. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Some of them you get options, and you get to choose what effect you want to deal with. This one is just 2 cheaper technologies are discovered. So interesting. We'll get that next turn, I think. Oh no, there they are. So we got pocket portal tech and CIS ORT satellites, which increases our border territory essentially when they're built. It also comes with the tier 2 dust exploitation. So any planets that we decide to exploit dust on will get a little bit more than it used to with the tier 1. We also finished our core mining, so our industry exploitation has bumped up, and now we're getting more industry on those planets that are using that tech. And we also found Hyperium. So there's a couple planets I noticed that had Hyperium, and we'll look at what that does here in a moment. We need a new tech before we do much else. So I'm thinking of where we're at. One of the things that we're dealing with right here is we have a system that's completely popped out. We have no way to expand it at the moment. One thing we can do is we can try to research one of these 3 planet types and be able to then colonize it and increase our population by a small amount. I think that that's a good plan for 2 reasons. The barren planet tech also includes this luxury resource, and so not only will we get access to making this planet, which just happens to have a minus 15 approval penalty, but we'll also get this unlocked, which will offset that penalty to a fair amount. So it's actually going to be not that bad to go ahead and settle this and get a couple more population, and in effect we'll get a lot more science in this system and a little bit more industry. Not much else, but still more than what we're getting now, which is essentially nothing. So I think that's the plan that we want to go with for the next few turns. Now to do that, we're going to have to go through this tech. This tech is one of the most important techs in the game. It's one of the few that I actually know by name. It's called the Applied Cashmere Effect. And what this tech does is this is the tech that unlocks travel through wormholes. So in most maps, you're going to be kind of hemmed in by a couple of wormholes in a small region that's pretty isolated from the rest of the map. And in order to get access to the rest of the map, you're either going to have to move very deep down this tree somewhere else where you can get hyperdrives and you don't have to travel on any of these, or you're going to have to grab this tech, which is much quicker, get the wormhole technology, and then you can move your ships through the wormholes. They work very similarly to how our portal tech works. So you just automatically travel from one end to the other instantly. There's no travel time like on Cosmic Strings, which is neat. It also has an expansion disapproval reduction. This doesn't really apply to us all that much because our portals already have a massive amount of expansion. Pretty much negates expansion disapproval, so we don't really have to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and queue up both of those. It's going to take a while. We can shave some time off of that by maybe switching over to science exploitations in our systems once we're done building our fleet. But we may want to build a second fleet, so I'm not sure that we're going to be able to speed it up much. So that's taken care of. Let's look at Hyperion. We didn't spend a lot of time looking at titanium in the last game, and I wanted to explain exactly what titanium does a little bit better. So we'll see right here we have a system that potentially has some Hyperium. So this tundra planet has Hyperium. So as I mentioned, any of these strategic resources is going to give you a boost to some basic FIDs. In this case it's science. This planet also has a penalty, which is fine. We'll find a way to deal with that. But having access to this resource is going to allow us to build certain structures. And I'll just show you real quick. So one of the things I forgot to mention last time, titanium is what allows us to build missiles or our ion torpedoes. Without titanium, you are unable to build torpedoes. You can learn the technology for this, but without this resource, you can't build them. You can build the defense for them, which is important to know. So if you're being attacked by ships that have lots of torpedoes and you don't have titanium to build your own, you can still build the defense modules for them without titanium, which is important. The other thing that titanium allows you to build is the armor. And we did build armor on one of our ship designs last game. Without titanium in our empire, we could not build armor. It's unavailable. And you can see the little symbol here. This is a strategic resource we do not have. It's unavailable. Here's another one, unavailable. We don't have any of the special modules unlocked yet. So Hyperium will actually come into play with some of the higher level technologies. I think maybe beam weapons, level 2 beam weapons might use Hyperium. There are some buildings and structures in the later parts of the game that will use Hyperium that you will be unable to build unless you have access to it somehow. Fortunately for us, we do have access to it, so we can get it when we need it. At the moment, we don't really need it. The only thing we need is titanium. Having it would be nice because it does provide that science bonus, but it's not critical for us at the moment. We also noticed that their planet, their homeworld, Nalan system, they have Hyperium in their system. So once you discover them in the science tree, they will show up on the map. Until then, a lot of those resources do not show up on the map. Luxury resources always show up, but you don't get the benefit of them until you've unlocked them. Let's just take a look at our empire real quick. We can see, once again, we're just working on basic buildings. cranking out our fleet. This will be 3 of the 5 that I have queued. Clan ship in 3 turns. I have everybody set to happy. We could raise taxes and start making more dust, but that would drop our outputs just a little bit, and I'm pretty comfortable with where our tax rate's at. Plus 15 dust a turn is getting us a steady clip, so we're in a good spot at the moment. We've already looked at science. We don't really have anything to do with ships, so let's go ahead and deal with this battle. So last time we won, we got lucky. We won 2 out of 3 of our rock paper scissors fights. The computer will kind of mix up their strategy, and if they see that you pick the same thing every single time, they'll adapt to that strategy. So you kind of have to mix it up yourself. I think we're gonna try the same 3 and see what he does this time. He may pick different cards, or he may pick the same ones. And this time I'm just going to auto battle this instead of doing the cinematic. It's not very exciting when it's only 1 ship versus 1 ship. So okay, so this time he adapted his strategy slightly. We didn't counter his like we did before. And because of that, notice our ship took significantly more damage this time. His ship did not take as much damage, so that's unfortunate. We'll probably end up losing this probe. I'm not too worried about that. It's just costing us dust, and it's already done exploring. We could actually salvage it by moving it to Voltaria and putting it in the hangar. And then once we get the Kashmir effect, we could send it out as a scout. Let's go ahead and do that. It's not going to be able to survive another battle. So what I'm going to do, when you have a ship out, it costs more dust per turn than when it's in a hangar. So if you have your fleet in a hangar, it's cheaper. When you bring it out, you need to understand that it's going to cost you significantly more dust to do that. That's why having that 15 dust right now is a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and disband this. So by clicking on him and clicking disband, it'll ask me, are you sure you want to put this guy back in the solar system hangar? And I'm going to confirm. And so now when we click on here, you can see he's in here. He will slowly repair over time, which is great. But it'll take a while. I don't really care if he gets completely healed. He's just going to be scouting dangerous territory here in a minute anyways. But at least right now he won't be able to be destroyed. This system isn't building... Oh, here we go. It is building something. You can actually minimize these with these little arrows down at the bottom if you want to see the prettiness without all the graphs. I'm going to go ahead and queue that up as well. And just about ready to finish this turn. I promise we're not going to take 26 minutes on a turn again. That's always only ever the first turn when I'm explaining a lot of things that I do that. Okay. Go ahead and end our turn. Xanados has another ship completed. And there's not much else we can do. Our clan ship is almost completed. 2 turns for the clan ship. Ah, he finally did take this region. So now we're going to have 2 regions that we're going to have to invade, which will take some time. Hopefully not too much time. So one thing with these cosmic strings, like I said before, it's a one-way trip. He can't turn around midway. He has to come all the way here. One thing he may not be aware of is we have a lot of ships here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a fleet. Go ahead and queue those up as well. I'm going to create a fleet, and these are all in a single fleet. We could split them up into individual fleets, but we don't want to do that. We want them in a single fleet, and then I'm going to blockade this system. And so now when this ship inevitably arrives here, he's going to be stuck here, and we're going to get an opportunity to shoot him out of the out of this world. Now, one thing, I created this fleet, so we're going to go here and you can see my dust has gone down a little bit. So -6 from fleets, -4 from ships. So that's important to know. It's reduced our dust output by a small margin. Alright, we're going to go ahead and engage this guy in combat. Now, one of the tactics that you have at your disposal, and you may have noticed it in the last video, there is a retreat function, and basically when you retreat, instead of firing your weapons, you just run away. Whatever round you choose to retreat in, you'll take damage for that round, but once the round is over, you'll leave if you survive the fight. So you'll randomly kind of just pick a direction and run away. You don't get to choose which direction you go, and I'm not sure if it always sends you back the direction you came from. But either way, so he's going to almost inevitably retreat. So battle ends the battle, enemy wins, deals 3 unopposed damage rounds. And it's an unblockable tactic. We're just going to increase the accuracy of our long-range weapons, and I'm not even going to bother with these other ones because he's not going to stay and fight. We'll go ahead and do the manual. I want to see my new ships in combat here. You can also turn off all the menus and information if you just want a pure cinematic experience. We got our lasers, we got our kinetics, and we should have some missiles. So since he retreated in the long-range phase, he's not going to take any missile damage. Yep, and he did get to pick which direction he wanted to go. It might be that it takes you whatever direction you had queued up. So if he had that queued to go from Ish back to Nalan, that's why it did that. He's almost dead though, so that ship's going to be in need of some significant repairs, or it's going to just be cannon fodder in the very near future. We have our pro getting healed, clan ship in 1 turn, so we'll send him out in just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and add that ship. This is something else I didn't get to show last game, so notice we have two independent fleets here, 1 of 5, 3 of 5. We can merge these and make a single fleet that is 4 of 5. And so we do that by highlighting both of these. You use the control key if you want to highlight 2 things, and then just click merge, and now they're in a single fleet. We have the technology in the science trees to increase this cap, so we can get larger fleets on a single stack in the future. And you can have multiple stacks in a system. They don't generally get a fight together, so each one would be an individual battle if you had multiple stacks. But if you can get more ships than your opponent by having a higher cap, that's one way to win fights. So good to know. Alright. Things are going to start moving a little bit more quickly. This will be done in 1 turn. This clan ship is ready to go. And we're going to send him to Gemini. We're 2 turns away from our science tech, and this is maybe a good time to point something else out, and this is something I really should have pointed out in the last video. I mentioned the mouse over thing being a really powerful tool in this game. Mousing over almost anything will give you some good information. One of the most important things you can mouse over are these icons at the top, and each icon will give you some information about the game. So the first icon is the turn icon. It shows which players still need to take their turns by color. We're the only player left up there, so we're waiting. The computer's waiting for us, basically. They take their turns instantly. All turns are done simultaneously, so that's important to know if you ever play this multiplayer. You are playing at the same time as other people, so sometimes it's a race to get actions off. You'll never beat the computer, though. They pretty much take their turns instantly. This shows that we have the highest score in the game at the moment, and score is just an aggregate of all the different metrics: army, number of systems, size of your population, food output, all that stuff. It's just an aggregated score. So it shows that we're doing the best overall. It's not an indefinite sign of who's going to win the game, but it's an indication of whether you're on pace, basically. Notice that the Pilgrims are at the very bottom, so we can kind of assume that whoever red is kind of gotten bottled in similarly to the Pilgrims. They're in a system similar to our arm with one of the other factions, and they're doing equally bad. The other ones look like they've more evenly spread out within their region. The next one will give you an idea of your current settings for dust. So this gives us an idea of how much dust we have, how much we're making a turn, our tax rate, whether we're in the lead. So we have a total output of 411 FIDs every turn, which is first in the game. So that's one of the reasons why we have the highest score. Science, this gives us information on our science, our current research, how many turns, how much output we have towards it. We're first in knowledge within the game. We have the most techs unlocked. Here's our ship upkeep, so you can see we have a total upkeep of 12. By hangering those ships, it would reduce that upkeep cost by a small amount. It'll also show you how far you are towards victory conditions, particularly the military. Supremacy victory is by taking over all the other team's capitals. So if you have the only capital system left, you win the game. Expansion victory is basically just owning almost the entire map. I can't remember what the exact percentage is, and it varies depending on the size of the map, obviously. This gives us an idea of who we know and our relations with them. This is our diplomatic screen, and then this is our hero screen. It'll tell us when the next hero is available for hire, and how many heroes are idle, how many heroes are injured, how many heroes are working for us currently. The problem is we only have 3 hero slots. Now you can expand that later in the game through certain technologies, but sometimes it's beneficial to get a hero and then get rid of them for a better hero. Other times it's not. It just depends on what you get. They're kind of random, and whether you can put certain ones to use or not is really up to the situation at hand. And then obviously the settings button if we wanted to adjust anything. Merge those guys together. Alright, so he just flew it right back towards us. He doesn't know what to do. So one of the things that I haven't really pointed out yet, we now have a siege ship. This ship does not have very good defense. It does not have very many weapons. It's mainly just for sieging planets. And one of the things we can do is we can change our formation. This just basically puts certain ships in front or certain ships in back of the line. They're more likely to get hit or less likely to get hit depending on their position in the stack. And so we want to protect our siege ships, so the ships with the most invasion points MP stands for military points, I believe. So ships with the least invasion military points are at the top of the list. So that means all of these Yolana class ships will be at the top of the stack, and the Valkyr 2 will be at the bottom of the stack. So he'll be least likely to get damaged by anything. We'll just pick that one. Yeah, and he's totally gone. Alright. Our first victory. Okay, well, now that we have an entire fleet that's maxed out, I'm going to send him over here. Okay, so he started to build a fleet. We'll hope that ours is a little bit better than his. Okay, just showing us what's been finished. And this is where I said we really wanted this dust, and this is why. So all of the cost of the fleets that we just built, we just put into service. Now we're going to get 20 more dust a turn, and that's going to put our money situation in a much better spot. I don't think that it'll take effect until next turn, but there we go. I think, yeah. So that'll help a lot. And we'll go ahead and keep our colony ship moving. Oh, we made it. Awesome. We're going to go ahead and colonize this guy. Set up just like we have been. So that. So unfortunately, nobody likes to visit Arctic planets, except for scientists maybe. Nobody goes on tourist attractions to Arctic planets, so we don't get the dust building. It won't show up in this queue because it only works for certain planet types, if you remember. One of the problems with Arctic obviously is the low amount of food. We're definitely going to want to get that going, and then we're probably going to want to get this going as well. This will increase food on Arctic planets, and then we'll grab our science and our science. So both of these will increase science. I'm not too worried about this just yet. That's more than enough to get started. Now, one of the things that we really want to do with heroes is it's really important to move heroes around quite frequently. And the reason for that is heroes level up based on things being constructed. So we just queued a whole bunch of really cheap buildings that need to be constructed. Putting a hero in this system will give him a lot of experience, as well as accelerate how quickly the entire system starts to grow. So let's take a look at our two heroes and see. This guy is just about finished with this system. He's running out of things to build here. And we already know that pretty much everything's been built here that can be built. And really, there's no more need for growth in this system because all we have left is a barren planet. We can't even get onto it yet. We're working on getting there, but we're not there yet. It's going to take a while. So a lot of his power, a lot of his resources, the extra food and all that is going to waste. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this guy off of that system, and we're going to put him in Gemini. And you can do this as frequently as you want. There is, I believe it's a 6-turn cooldown, and there are ways to reduce the number of turns for that cooldown to take effect, where you can then move people more frequently. But it's a good idea, especially when you're starting a new system, to get a hero on their turn 1. It's going to massively increase the speed at which you grow, especially if they have that food buff that we got early on, and that was one of the main reasons I wanted this guy so badly. So that system's going to take off pretty quickly here. One other thing to mention about the Vulture apertures, they always take 3 turns to construct, no matter what your whatever your industry rate is. It doesn't matter, and you cannot buy it out. It's impossible to buy it out. So that's why I always queue it first, because I just don't want to forget it. I want it up as soon as I can get it up, and then I don't want to have to worry about it. There is also a technology later in the game for vaulters that will give you a 1% overall buff to science per aperture. So let that sink in. It doesn't sound like a lot, but let's say I have 10 systems. That's a 10% increase on my overall science. 20 systems, 20% increase. And so the more area that we hold as a faction, the more apertures we can build, and then the more science we can get from that. So pretty powerful. Once we get these things up, I may not even get this one up. I may just get another fleet of 5 going. And this is just a game event, basically saying that we finally colonized one of the more difficult planets. If it was easy, it wouldn't be interesting. Alright, another turn down. We're going to start our invasion this turn. Okay. So we've leveled up our hero. Now, well, let me take a look here. We are really close to being able to hire her, and she's going to be our military commander, I think. So I was contemplating whether or not to switch him to a military hero as we start our invasion. I think I'm going to pass on that. I think we're going to wait one more turn and we're going to hire that other hero to do that. So I'm going to leave him on the system. By leaving him on the system, that means I want to take advantage of the industry buff. So this will get the output of this system up a little bit, and then maybe we'll move him over and start finishing off those ships. Okay, we now have the Kashmir effect, so we're going to start working on getting the barren worlds colonized, which will unlock a couple of planets in both of these systems for us. And because of that, our probe, which is not fully healed yet, but it's healed enough, is going to go exploring. Alright. So we found a system with hydromiel. So this is one of those early luxury resources that we got that none of them happened to spawn in our system. But this system has some. It's a food output, increases food production, and there's actually 2 planets with that, which is pretty nice. If you manage to get 4 in your empire, it gives you an empire-wide bonus to food, which is fantastic. I don't really like this system. I like this planet, but this system you can see lots of red. So this is going to be a really difficult system to expand beyond this particular planet. It may be important to grab it because it is the entryway to the rest of our system. So it's kind of a choke point. And then I'm just going to turn on the scout. And yeah, have at it, buddy. We'll just leave that ship to scout and check on him occasionally. Okay, so by exploring that system, we uncovered one of our little cards, and we get the cheapest technology in our list discovered. I don't know what that is, but that's just the wormhole tech. That's showing that our... Alright, so here we go. Let's see if he attacks us. Okay, he's not going to attack us. He has a total military power or offensive power of 288 on his 1 fleet and 92 on his 2nd. We have a combined power of 445. We also have 900 siege, which is a lot for a single ship. We're going to go ahead and fight, and this is going to be a pretty even fight. So, again, we're going to want to defend our one ship. And looking at his ships, he is still all spec'd out for kinetics. Okay, so his Paladin 3 ships have been spec'd for beam weapons. And his Paladin 4 ship is back on kinetics, but it has a little bit of deflector and shields. So I think what we're going to do is increase our accuracy at long range with our missiles and decrease his accuracy. Minus 20% beam damage for the mid-range. Actually, I think that affects us. We'll just go barrier, and then for close range, go with that. Alright. So we'll see how we did. Alright, so we countered his first one, so that's really good. See, our missiles actually fired this time. Missiles fire at the beginning of the long-range phase and hit at the end of the long-range phase. So while they're extremely powerful, they're not very fast as individual ships. Excellent. So it looks like we took out 3 of his ships. That's the last one. That worked out quite well. He'll probably try to spawn a few more small little fleets while we're taking over his territory. He won't be able to do much. So now that we've cleared this region and our ships are the only ships in orbit, we have the option to do what is called a siege. If we mouse over, I guess we can't really see it yet. So what we'll do is we'll click on the invading, and we can see right here, okay, this is where it shows it. So it's going to take 28 turns. So our 900 invasion compared to his 250 system defense will take 28 turns in order to completely siege this system. Now, a couple things. While we're in blockade, he takes a massive penalty to approval, so his output on the system is hindered. And it also prevents him from using any resources from other parts of the system. So, for example, this titanium that he would normally be able to build things with, because we're blockading the system, there is no travel allowed in this system by, commercial fleets, because our ships are there. And so he can't build anything in this system with titanium, so he won't be able to build any missile ships out of this system. Now, he can still build them over here and send them, but while this is blockaded, he's out of the loop when it comes to the rest of the strategics in the Empire. So this is a pretty significant penalty. Even just blockading a system can be a strategy, even when you know you're not going to be able to completely finish the invasion. Now, this is one of the reasons why we're building a second fleet. getting that other fleet over here with another 900 invasion power will significantly reduce this timer. And so it won't actually take 28 turns if we can get those ships over here quickly. In fact, we may even want to move the siege ship up. This was just the overview. So we had a lot of effective damage. Missiles were our best weapon. And this is a great screen when you get your butt kicked. You can figure out what defenses you need to build to counter. We know that he's using beam weapons now, so switching some of our deflectors to shields might be beneficial, or splitting the difference on the next set of ships we make. I'm not going to mess with that just yet. Let's check our tax rate real quick. +9, so we're still doing okay here. We're going to leave everybody unhappy. And another turn. I must say the music to this game is very relaxing. I really wish I'd remembered to turn it back on. Okay, we've uncovered another system. 2 hydromials. So this is interesting. That's a total of 4. So if we were to potentially grab this system and the entry system, Vorta, and then grab both of these planets, we could have a 20% bonus system-wide or empire-wide to our food growth, which is very powerful. That might be worth investing some time and energy into. It will definitely be one of the next things we do once we finish conquering our wing of the galaxy. We may even want to start on it earlier than that. Let's go ahead and get a clan ship, at least prepped. Oh, so this was the tech, the free tech that we got. So I don't think that this tech is worth investing in yet. It's not a bad tech. It'll increase the number of trade routes. We'll talk about trade routes later if we end up getting some allies. You have to be at peace with people in order for trade routes to take effect. It does have minus 15% upkeep on the system. Right now our system's total upkeep is only 9. So 15% of 10 is like 1.5 dust. That doesn't even pay for the cost of this. But once you get enough upgrades, this actually is a net gain. This will actually save you dust in the long run. It's not something you want to build too early, though. Let's do that. Let's get another one of these out. So this system is almost finished building the major structures that it needs. We'll queue that up for now. I don't really need the extra food yet. The extra food would be nice if we were grabbing one of these two, but we're not yet. If anything, we'll probably grab this one next, just because we can fill it up without the massive penalties that this planet's going to come with. 5 from that, 10 from that, a total of 15. The Hyperion might be useful though. we'll sleep on it another turn. All right, down to 27 turns. Six turns till we can colonize those barren planets. Okay, so this is one other way that we can increase the speed at which this is happening. And that is a hero. We're going to assign her to Gamma Fleet. And I'm going to look at the commander tree, and I'm going to show you why the commander tree is a powerful tree for a commander. So a couple things that the commander tree does. Number one is it gives you access to all of these battle cards. So a lot of these ultimate defense, battle action, you'll see. Battle action, emergency shelter. A lot of these are cards that you can play just like the other ones that we play during combat. They have more powerful effects, but many of them cost dust to use. So that's one thing. She also will access some extra movement for our fleets, some extra experience, which can help level up our fleets and make them more accurate. And then we can actually, while we're invading a system, leech dust off the system, so it'll offset the cost of having a massive fleet sitting on somebody. We can also leech science, which is interesting. This stat, the melee stat, this stat actually increases your invasion power by a percentage. So the more melee we end up with through picking up unlocks as we level up, the more powerful she'll become. We're gonna go back and look at this tree. I want to go offense. So assailant will go this side. Defender will go this side. I don't think it really matters. We're going to end up getting both of them. I'm going to start with that one. And then it's going to unlock the ability to grab this. Crit chance on kinetics. Crit chance on missiles. So that's pretty powerful. We could also increase our fleet speed, but we don't really have a lot of movement problems, so I'm not really worried about that. But I do like this. This is one of the secondary abilities. It basically gives you a little bit of everything. Defense, labor, melee, offense, and wit. But more importantly than that, it unlocks Ground Pounder. And Ground Pounder is the melee stat. And so that's what we're going to go for next. We want her to help aid in our invasions. Notice by taking the +1 melee, that increased our melee by 1, we're now at 30% on fleet. And now you'll notice that shaved several turns off of this. And so our invasion power went from 900 to 900 plus 30%, which is, well, it makes our total 1170. So not bad. Not bad at all. Get our shits moving. Oh boy. Looks like we're not the only ones who've made it through wormholes. This is the Siphon Fleet. The Scout similar to ours. There's a nice system in the middle of the galaxy. There usually is. The middle always seems to have a very large system. Not always a great system, though. Dustwater's nice. Volcano's okay. Kind of a small planet. Not a lot of population available there. A barren with toxic environment. That's not a very good one. Medium Arctic. Small barren with dust water and rings. That makes it a lot more reasonable, though it's very tiny as well. Yeah, there's a lot of potential here, but it's going to be really hard to take advantage of it. Um, because there's so many planets, you're going to get a lot of the penalties for each one, which is really going to mean you're going to need to invest in approval. We haven't had to deal with approval yet on a really significant scale. So we've met the siphons. Let's take a look at how they're doing. So we can kind of see, you know, they have some similar things to us in that they're scientists. They started with isolation shields just like us. The siphon affinity is they get their tax rate is also tied to a bonus to science, and so they can really ramp up science. They're one of the strongest races for winning a science victory in the game. They're not very good at fighting though, particularly ground-based fighting. They're not very good at defending their systems. They do make very powerful ships though, so they can have a really powerful navy, but their defenses on planet are not up to snuff by most standards. We're kind of the opposite. We have very high defense. On planet, our ships are pretty average, but we're also very strong in science, so we're probably a better turtling race than they are. Okay. We don't have the ability to offer peace at this point in time. There is a waiting period whenever you make an agreement with somebody, or even before you can make certain types of agreements. So, for example, in order to get peace with an empire, you have to be neutral with them, or during Cold War for so many turns. And after so many turns, there's a waiting period that will end, and then you can offer peace. They may or may not accept, and you won't be able to offer again for so many turns. Same thing with declaring war. You know, you can't declare war and then the next turn declare peace. There's a waiting period. So you declare war, you're at war for at least the next 10 to 20 turns. That's how it works in this game anyways. So we may want to look at peace with these guys. They may be able to trade some science with us, which would be fantastic. It would also give us an opportunity to show you how the trade routes work if we did manage to get peace with somebody. Now that's an interesting system. Whew, that was quite a move. Okay, Linux. A Terran, a Tundra, an Arid, a Helium, an Arid, and an Arid. So this is a really powerful system. We do have one of the wonders here, the Rings of Urla. It looks like it's mainly an XP bonus on this system. Meteor strikes is mixed. Ice 10 is mixed. Positive anomaly, positive anomaly, positive anomaly with 20 approval, which will help offset some of these other penalties. This is a really good system. So, a couple things. It's really far away from our system. Not incredibly far away, but pretty far away. But because we have our teleportation portals, we have the ability to colonize or an outpost really far away from us and still be able to defend it without having to have a whole fleet dedicated to being over there, because we can just teleport our fleet, our main fleet, to that point if it gets attacked. So we may want to grab that system and work our way back to Scorpius and Vorta. Make Voltaria really strong. It already is, because it's our home system, and we can blockade it and keep people out of the rest of this territory. I want you to go that way. We also found this region. Man, Man, another really decent region. A large ocean planet with blue cap mold. Tiny arid planet, but with rings and blue cap mold, so the outputs are way higher than they normally would be. And 25 approval for the stellar borer, which is this thing, some endless technology that you can actually restore and get a really cool effect from. Okay, well, we're gonna create this ship, send it this way. Alright, we'll just keep our taxes right there, keep everybody happy, keep the good times rolling. I'm not gonna fight these siphons. We want to make some friends. We're already at war with one person. Alright, I got a decision to make here. This is Ying. Do we want to take a 15-point hit to approval in this system? I don't know. It's either 10 or 15. Well, let's look at it this way. Which system's going to output more for us? So that's 10 output a turn. This is 12 output a turn. And there's more population here. Less approval of a hit. This is the better one to colonize. We can't colonize it yet. But in 2 turns, we can. Because we'll just go ahead and bump that to there. And so in 2 turns we'll be able to colonize that, and then very quickly the desert planet. So we only need a couple of turns, maybe 3 turns, to figure out what to do in between. I think sustainable farms will give us a bunch of food for all of these people, which will help this system grow, which is important. And then we'll just throw a ship on there, and that should be enough turns to get us to where we can then colonize that. That looks good. Alright. 11 turns now. Ah, oh, look at that. All the population, the molten springs, the mineral rich, the dust water, the Hyperium ×2. Man, it's just so tasty over there. Okay, let's send him back that way. Wow. Well, we have a lot of decisions to make. Okay, so what you saw there was, remember that countdown I showed you earlier that's up here? Xanados finally went from an outpost to a colony. The big difference between an outpost and a colony is you project a border when you become a colony. One of the neat things is that systems that are inside of your border get the benefit of being in the border. So, for example, Ying, even though it doesn't have a border of its own yet, because it's inside of our territory, it's getting the same benefits. And the primary benefit of being inside of the influence border is it affects your science and your dust output on a percent basis. So the higher your happiness for your overall empire, if you're inside of that influence bubble, you'll get a bonus to your dust and your science output. Let's take a look and see. It's not really showing up here. Does it show up here? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where it shows up. Okay, well, I'll look for it later, but basically it's a good thing if you're inside the bubble. Settling Scorpius would be easier than settling something outside of it, things like that. So, alright, so we now can colonize barren planets. We also have access to some of these resources that have been on our systems. Get ships moving that need to move. And we're gonna 4 turns to get that up and running. As soon as we get that, we want to colonize this planet and get some more population on this system. Okay, so you notice we dropped like 10 turns. So what happened was our other seed ship finally made it over here. Now, I can't combine him into this fleet because it's already full, but I want to. And the reason I want to is because I want the effect of her melee bonus to also affect this other ship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these. I'll take this injured ship. We'll create a fleet out of it. And then I'm going to take this ship and the other 4, and we're going to merge them up. And that dropped another turn off just from that 30% bonus being applied to that other ship. So using your heroes to buff your invasion ships is a powerful tactic you can use to reduce the number of turns it takes to get these things done. The injured ship, I think we're actually going to send it back. And we'll just disband it into the hangar for now. And then I'll create... Well, no, I don't want to... 1, 2, 3, 4... 5... 6. So that's too many. Okay. That should be good. And we'll be taking this over pretty soon. Alright, we have our desert planet researched, so we can actually colonize that one as well. So one of the things that you may have noticed is that it's taking longer to get some of these science things done. I think it might be time to grab a couple of techs that we don't have, some science techs. So this is the next science building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to queue up to grab these techs. These are some battle cards that are pretty good. I like to use this one in particular quite frequently. And that'll get us some more science, and then we can move on from there. So that'll take care of that for a few turns. This planet needs to colonize the desert. That's only going to take one turn. And build that. Alright. Gemini's still moving right along. We're almost full here. So let's see, 4 turns. So in 4 turns, we're going to want to colonize this planet. I'm going to move it up to there. Let's make sure that that works. So 1 turn, 3 turns for that. That's 4 turns, so we need to move it back 1 more. There we go. So that'll fill this population all the way up before we try to colonize that one. Alright. Just a few more turns. We'll probably end this on turn 40. Looks like. Alright. We need to set an exploitation. Our science is about to go up pretty quickly. Let's go ahead and set it to food. And while we're doing that, we might even set this one to food. No, we'll just leave it. We'll just leave it just like that. Group all of these guys up into a single fleet, and then we're going to send him over here to defend those. I'll have a colony ship in 2 turns. Six turns for that. Okay. Man. Just really good systems everywhere. This isn't as fantastic, but 2 positive anomalies and 3 resources. Titanium, mercurite. Oof, that center area is just really rich. And we're going to be the first ones to get there, it looks like. We'll have to choose carefully. Alright, one of the things that's going to start happening that we're going to have to deal with after we get this science tech finished is we need to start dealing with approval. And so one of the things we haven't looked at, approval buildings. So there are structures you can build to increase your approval rating. They are pink, just like the approval thumb. So this was the first approval building, and it's very important that you get it once you start to have issues with keeping your people content or happy. or if you have a system that has just a lot of approval penalties. Grab this building early on and then throw it down, and it takes care of a lot of those penalties that we were looking at earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and queue it up after we finish this. Looks like we've met somebody. Pisces 1. Who did we meet? We met the Harmony. Harmony are an interesting race of sentient rocks. Their unique trait is that they do not use dust in any way within the game. In fact, they think dust is a corruption and they want to destroy it. They have some pretty unique playstyle. Not a race that I would recommend starting with. But very fun to play once you have the basic understanding of the game. Okay. So you can see our border is pushing up against theirs, and depending on who has the higher influence rating, influence is based on your overall population size, how long you've had the system, and also some of your structures. I think what happened is we just completed this improvement, which increases our influence area by 3. So, but you can actually push into and actually completely overtake another empire's influence if yours gets strong enough. 4 turns. Notice that our Gamma fleet has no invasion points, so they didn't actually affect the turn timer at all. Another level. 15 science, just a flat 15 science a turn is a worthy benefit. So we'll take that. This system is going to need food. So now, when you get to the point where you run out of things to build that are useful, what do? Well, you have these 2 options. Now, you don't want to leave these on for very long. You can leave them on indefinitely if you needed to. But what they do is they convert a third of your production value, so in this case about 20 points, they'll convert it to either dust or science. So because we're making 63, about a third of that is going to be 21. So we'll either get 21 extra science a turn or 21 extra dust a turn. Putting 1 or 2 empires on dust in this with this one is a great way to deal with taxes, so you can keep your approval high with a low tax rate, but then turn this on to get your money so you're not in the negative for dust. The other thing is, if you're having a hard time, it's taking a long time to get your science going, you need to get more buildings in your queue. One way to do that is to throw this down, and what that'll do is increase the speed at which you're researching new tech, and so you can get into newer buildings faster by having a couple systems focus on that, particularly systems that are high industry. One thing that you don't want to do, you don't want to go production to try to increase these. It's better, generally speaking, to just use whatever one of these 2 you want. So for instance, if you're low on dust and you can switch from, say, food or industry to one of these 2, it's better to do that than it is to switch to this and hope to get a benefit from this, if that makes sense. I want to keep this on food because I want these filling up as quickly as possible. And we've met somebody else, the amoeba. The amoeba player. Let's head over there. I changed my mind. let's head over here. Alright. This system's going to do the same for the moment. We could build another ship, some more fleets, but I don't really feel the need to at the moment. We're not threatened by anything. We might as well get our science going and try to get up some of these trees. Ugh. Wow. Man, they just keep getting better and better. So many rich systems in that center area. It's probably the least pretty one we've seen. Well, I'm glad we saved that scout ship when we did. It's proven most valuable. I think I wanna jump down here now and maybe see what these guys are. So we'll send them that way. Alright, so because I still think that I may end up moving her to a fleet at some point, I'm going to stop with just these two for now. Those are still both really good. But I'm going to start grabbing the veteran. And what that's going to do is, while she's in a system, it's still going to increase her labor and her wit, so she's still getting a little bit of governing experience, and she'll still provide a nice little boost to any system she's in. But it'll also increase her stats for fleet defense, for system defense. So I'm going to start focusing on these traits in her tree as she levels up in the future. And that way, if I need to throw her on a fleet, she won't be completely incompetent. Okay. Ah, we have buildings again. So let's get them going. We need an exploitation over here. It's going to be food. We'll throw it up front. This system can build that and then go right back into there. We have our colony ship now. We may have had it for a couple turns and I just forgot. So the question is, do we want to risk moving it too far away? This is not a very promising system. The glittering halls with such a small... Yeah, I mean, it's just not worth our time. Well, we do have +20 on planet. I mean, they're just so small. I'm really torn here. I really want to just jump over here and grab one of these really fantastic systems. This one in particular, I think, just looked too tasty. I think we're going to do it. It's a little bit risky to send a colony ship out into open space like this. Any of those scout ships, like the amoeba ship, could potentially attack this ship and take it out, and that would be a waste of a lot of resources. But I mean, it just looks so good. Too good to be true, right? Alright, we're going to go ahead and get this science building queued up here. And at this point, nobody's really happy with us. Let's see if we can make a friend. They really like that idea. They don't... Alright, so we don't have the technology to do any more. There's actually technology where you can trade dust, science, systems, strategic resources, and whatnot. If we mouse over, the main reason they're not happy with us is because they're losing the game. That's going to be a problem no matter what, if you're playing well. So, I think we're going to go ahead and offer them peace. Sounds like they accepted, and they did. And that's going to open up some trade routes, hopefully. Alright, just a couple more turns. The Pilgrims would like a ceasefire. So, if I accept a ceasefire, that'll basically mean we won't be able to invade or fight. It'll basically put us back in Cold War for 20 turns. I'm about to take over their home system. I'm not really inclined to give them a ceasefire. They're not even offering me anything. They're just saying, hey, please stop killing us. Yeah, no. I want to show you the victory of our people here. Okay, we got a new science that we gotta figure out what we're doing here. It would be nice to have a larger fleet capacity so we can group more ships together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to queue up a bunch of those techs. They're going to take very few turns to complete. So this tech gives us +3 command cap, and it'll increase the experience that we receive from heroes. So I'm going to go that one. This one gives us all the trade for open borders. I'm going to grab that one. This is more command points. I'm going to grab that one. More command points. I'm going to grab that one. And then I'm going to finish out with these techs. This one is another science defense tech similar to this guy, and then this one is basically level 2 siege artillery, and so it'll increase the siege capacity of our ships. We can upgrade them to better siege ability, which we're going to need. That's going to take a while. Alright, almost there. 2 turns away from victory of our first fight, and this has taken what feels like a long time, but it's in this game it's actually not that long. Move our ships. Okay, we've got some new tech here, so do we need food? Oh man, look at this. Gosh, all this. Yeah. We can use the food because we're going to fill this whole system out. We may not keep this building indefinitely. Exploitation here yet either. Oh, I wanted to... I keep forgetting to do this. If you hold down Alt and you pick something, it'll put it at the top of the queue, which is really handy. So, remember that. That system's getting really big. That hero is running out of cheap things to build. What we're going to do is we're going to move that hero over here. So we made it. We're ready to colonize. What is the best one of these to colonize? desert cities. Wow, that looks cool. Deserted cities. 2, 3. So many choices. I think we'll just go with this Terran with coral reefs and that. Lots and lots of food. This system's going to fill up super fast. We're going to go ahead and move him over here. And we're going to start with our most important of techs, followed by the second most important of techs. And because I have the dust, I'm going to go ahead and buy that one out. Followed by dust, science, we want to get some defenses up over here relatively quickly. More science, more food, and I'm going to hold down Alt and put that at the top of the queue and buy that out as well. Alright. That system's going to grow really fast, and we're going to just be jumping planet to planet to planet, and we're going to get this filled out and super, super strong. And this is going to be our stronghold that's going to help us take the rest of the galaxy. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to go ahead and finish one more turn and show you our victory in Nalin. It's not all that exciting, but I figured I'd show it to you. And this will end the video at about the same length as the last one, so go ahead and do that. And there it is. So the main thing that you're going to notice is, obviously, we've taken over this system. Most of the improvements have probably been sold off or destroyed by them because they knew they were going to lose it. But we do get to keep all of the population. Now there's a problem with that. These aren't our people. And so what you're going to notice here when I mouse over is our ownership control and our control of the system are two of those numbers that we were looking at earlier when we were building our apertures, our portals. And it'll take a fair amount of time before we will gain control of this system. So it becomes an outpost at this point. When we get full control and ownership, it'll go back to being a colony, similar to how our other ones were. And it'll give us borders. But until then, it's an outpost, which means they can move through it. They can come and try and take it back. Obviously, they're at war, so they can move through our borders anyways. But anybody can actually move through it. It's open. So the other thing is that the people start with an approval penalty, a really big one, and it'll slowly get better with time. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. But we can go ahead and queue up a couple of important buildings. Okay. Here's one other thing I haven't really done much of yet. We can move people around between planets. So if I grab that, I can move it over here. And the reason I would do that is this system doesn't have a lot of food, but this does. And I want this system to fill up faster. So by doing that, we'll lose out on the extra science, but we'll get more food, more industry. And so it'll actually grow a little bit quicker that way. Alright, and I think that's where we're going to wrap this up. I hope you've been enjoying the series, and we'll see you next time.